Welcome to the SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We use it as a framework, an analytical framework for assessing an organization, a division within an organization, a category, or even a brand. A SWOT analysis is used to identify strengths and weaknesses. Those are internal to the organization, and opportunities and threats. Those are external of a business, division, category, or brand. And this type of framework and assessment is useful for advancing strategic and tactical goals and for developing a system of feedback based upon key performance indicators. You see here, let's examine firsthand the external opportunities and threats. And we call those pest plus C. So think of a creepy crawler, a pest, political, economic, social, cultural, technological, and even competitive. Those are the factors that face any business, category, brand, its division. They face it and require that the business adapt and make changes so that it can continue to meet marketing needs and consumer needs. If you look at the slide in the middle, it aligns it. It's saying, okay, we have strengths and weaknesses. Those are internal to the firm. And then we have opportunities and threats. Those are things that go out beyond the four walls of the organization or the category of the brand. And these are elements, as I just mentioned, that are political. Can be new laws, new regulations. It can be economic, like what occurred after the pandemic and the COVID-19 in 2020. It can be social. We've changed the way we view things as a society. Our perceptions have changed, or maybe there are items trending, so we no longer drink from plastic bottles, but instead go to water coolers like we did back in the old day. Or technological, the ability to connect people. So what we have to know as marketers is what's happening on the outside so that we can take that information, environmentally scan, and bring it back internally to the business or the category. Here are some examples: political at the federal, state, local, or regional level. So it's all these different levels that the marketer has to be aware of. And then it could be things like government stability, corporate corruption, all kinds of different levels, the tax laws, the regulations, labor laws. So again, depending on what kind of business or category you have, if it is a global brand, then not only is it the US laws that are pertinent to that brand or that category, but it may be the host country as well. The company may have some challenges in as well. You look at social cultural, and that's talking about what are the various education levels. Is there religious harmony? Are we breaking up as a society? Is there differing attitudes toward health and social welfare? How much are we consuming? Is it in to display conspicuous items of wealth? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Then technologically, so how much is an organization, how much does that organization have internet penetration? Are individuals actually responding to a category or brand or a business? Is there a basic infrastructure? Is there software piracy going on? What are the changes that are taking place with artificial intelligence and robotics, for example? And then competitive. Again, we can't control the competitors. So what are the decisions and actions of other businesses, and how would those affect us? So if you look at the SWOT analysis, when we're preparing for a deeper dive into the category and the brand, now here's where we want to pause. We might think of a company. Let's use Nike because that is not part of the example in this term. So we use Nike and we say, well, Nike is a large company with all kinds of different products in its portfolio and in its product mix. But so we can go from soccer cleats to actually, let's say, Nike and that we have athletic bags that Nike's brand is on, or maybe the Nike running shoes. Let's take the Nike running shoes then. We would say, okay, running shoes are a category, just like denim jeans are a category, one that Nike is not involved in, to my knowledge, as well as maybe fountain drinks. Those are a category. Nike's not involved in that as well. So what we want to do is we want to always think about the broader business, and within that business, what are its various products, and there's a product portfolio. Each of those products are related back to a category. Another way of looking at it would be if we talked about computers, we can say computers, and there's a computer industry, right, and a computer sector. But then we can say, we can talk about portable computers, such as a laptop, or perhaps like an iPad, even smaller still. And even maybe a phone could come under that. Our smartphones are definitely more powerful than any computer we had that were huge and took up an entire room back in the 1960s. So those are categories, right? The computer is the industry or sector, and the sub grouping or the category could be a portable computer. Laptop is a category, and so forth. And then we deal into the brand. If we talk about laptop computers, moving away from Nike, if we talk about laptop computers, back in the day, it was the brand was one of the brands was International Business Machines, or IBM. IBM has moved on to artificial intelligence with Watson. However, it sold off its offerings to a Chinese organization called Lenovo. Many of you have Lenovo branded laptops. So again, Lenovo is the brand. It rolls up to the category, which is the portable computer devices, and that portable computer devices rolls up to the sector, which is the computer industry. So if we look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, then strengths and weaknesses, all right, how well is Lenovo or IBM or Nike, in this case of our earlier example, how well are they responding to trends outside of themselves and are actually leveraging those trends to make their products better, or to provide consumers what they need in a more rapid clip? So how well are they actually looking at the opportunities and threats and responding? So strengths and weaknesses are just the organization's ability to respond to those opportunities and threats that are external. Here is an example of a SWOT analysis from, I must have made this when I needed lunch or something, but it's from Smuckers of Oroville, an Ohio-based firm, and they acquired Jif. So that was a complementary type of acquisition. And if you look at the strengths and weaknesses, let's start there. Strength is the ownership of an industry-leading brand. That's a strength. And then they have a diverse portfolio. So that's a strength. So we can balance out our revenue streams with our portfolio. They also are aggressive managers and leaders. So they actually aggressively target major brands that they want to invite, let's say, into their product portfolio. And they are a well-known brand, and they are a leader in a U.S. market. So those are all things that are internal to the firm because they had internal decision-making in order to make this happen. If you look at weakness in some categories, not all, that they have a low market share because they do have a broad product portfolio. And they have a low global presence. We might know about Smuckers if you're in Ohio, but others around the world, it's not something that it just rolls off the tongue. So that's a problem if they wanted to go global and in more serious way. And they have a smaller scale operations compared to their competitors, such as Nestle, Kraft, and all of the giants in the consumer products industry. And sometimes it is considered that their target market might be too concentrated. Now let's look at the opportunities and threats. Again, so strengths and weaknesses, internal, we're owning it. But opportunities and threats are beyond the four walls. Don't get these confused. If you look at that opportunity in NAFTA regulations, North American Free Trade Agreement, food safety regulations can actually make a company that's US-based and with Midwestern values very strong because it's going to be doing the right thing. Any natural disasters could be an opportunity for them to sell their packaging and their products. And if changes in consumer preferences, we find out that peanut butter is really something that can keep you going and is very healthy, we'll actually leverage that. Healthier foods, increasing full-time employment of women, so we've got to be able to make things on the fly. And any technological advances like going green and would make some of the other products in terms of food not as sustainable. And then let's look at the threats. Notice how we have food safety regulations, and this is a key because an opportunity can also be a threat. And two sides of the same coin. So regulations, if we're able to move quickly about them and communicate that, could actually be an opportunity because we're going to beat our competitors. On the other hand, if they're too onerous and we're not able to structure ourselves to combat the regulation or either adhere to it, let's say, then we're going to have a problem. Then they're talking here about foreign exchange rates. There's union unrest. And there's a real high intensity of rivalry with some of the big global consumer products and consumer food companies around the world. So these are just an example. So just look at this and know that when you do your SWOT analysis, you want the same degree of specificity and sophistication. So internal strengths, here's an example, very quick. Human resources, the size of the business and its core talent could be considered a strength. Its branding, whether it's consistently appealing to specific market segments or does it have some really negative feedback from its branding. And then financially, is it well suited? Does it have a proper capital stream, investment capacity in case it is growing? How rapidly can they expand because of the growth that has been brought on by their product portfolio. And then their customer service effectiveness. So many things now you can't even find a phone number, and so it's all online and people don't get back to you. So that would be an area, if they're good at it, that people will flock to. And then also their history and location. That can actually be a good internal strength. What about the weakness? Human resources, the size of the business and structure. Is it really hierarchical? Is there nepotism? Is the culture toxic? Is there a lack of transparency? Is there disagreements between the union and the management? If you look at the financial situation, same thing. Could they be a market leader or market follower? Now, operations, they could be cumbersome. They might have an insufficient social media presence, and they might have a weak or incompetent board of directors, or even corrupt. All these things can be internal weaknesses that'll be barriers for your firm. So recall, you are selecting a firm, and that firm is located probably in several different industries or sectors, but you're focusing on one category. So if it is Coca-Cola, you're not focusing on its entire brand portfolio, but rather you're focusing on one aspect or one category and one brand. So I think more clarity will serve you better there. So here's some questions. Internal to business strengths, what are the internal processes, capabilities, personal talent, or researches? And are they strong and difficult to replicate by its competitors? So that's the key, is it highly differentiated? If it's not, and anyone could just write up and repeat it and go forward with it, that's a problem. So solid core values enabling consistent decision making. It's really key that organization is trustworthy and it has the strong values, not just values that they post up on the wall, but they really mean. That's a positive. Uses of social media and overcoming bias in predictive modeling, recruitment of perhaps staff, or even recruitment of even individuals and contractors would be something. And then we have internal business weaknesses. So there are internal areas of vulnerability. We talked about the board. Maybe the board's ethical. Everything starts from unethical, rather. Everything starts from the top. And maybe within human resources, we don't have really good policies, and we have a generational and digital divide, and it props conflict. So the final two questions pertain to opportunities and threats. And as I mentioned before, they can be two sides of the same coin. It really depends on our mindset. It depends on our management will. It depends on our nature as far as, just like the Jif and Smuckers, they were aggressive or assertive in their acquisition strategy. So it really depends. How we define an opportunity threat is based upon our culture and the way that we see the world. The external to business, the opportunity is what political, economic, social, cultural, technological, or competitive forces. So we're repeating it over and over again. Those pests plus C. What forces are trending or changing? What do you notice? And how is that trending or changing the business and category? How is it impacting our brand? Just like the idea of the watch. And the watch now, it's not just like a watch as it used to be. So how did all this technology change the way that we had to react in our industry or in our company if we were selling watches? And the same thing with external business threats. It's the same question, so turn it around. It's the exact same question, but we're looking at how can we internally leverage those opportunities, and because we have what it takes, or how, because of the way we're set up, hierarchical, unethical, corrupt, you name it, are we not able to move quickly enough to adapt when marketers need to adapt when there are new regulations, for example, on the books. I want to conclude now and thank you very much for hanging with me during the SWOT analysis. We will be using this throughout the term and all the way into the capstone. So it would be really important that you start to get more familiar with it. Many of you have used it in undergraduate, so it's great. We'll build from there. All right, and thank you.